Kristy Smith Kowalczyk, and I'm super excited to be here to talk with you guys today about natural family planning. I feel a lot like this girl with a megaphone because in 2006, I learned something about fertility that really did change my life. It's not an exaggeration to say that. And it made me want to share it with everybody that I know. So that's why I'm here, just to share. My educational background, I actually have an engineering degree from University of Washington, aeronautics and astronautics, and as well as an MBA in business from Pepperdine University. So here's my story. Right after college, I was so excited to move to Southern California. I got this awesome job at a company that you've probably heard of, and it was super fun. I was getting to design rocket trajectories, getting to be part of like the launch team and building satellites in the factory. I actually got to wear the smock that these people are wearing here. It was so much fun, like really hands-on and just impacting the space industry. And that has always been a dream of mine. So one thing I really enjoyed was working on the GPS satellites. So if anybody used GPS, we can thank all the team that built them, and they're up there in orbit right now. It's pretty awesome. So there's a picture here of the constellation of GPS satellites. Anyway, I was having a great time in my career, and I also got to do some other fun stuff in Southern California. Joined a women's surfing club, so that was fun. And I got connected with this really great church in Huntington Beach called st. And they had this really great young adult group there, which I think is kind of hard to find, young adult groups, but it was a really good one. Like, we used to meet weekly and take turns hosting, and we would learn about different topics. And it was a really cool time in my faith in my 20s, because I was just really wrestling with some of the teachings of the church, and it was this cool, like, safe space to talk about all kinds of different topics that our church teaches. So anyway, everything in my life was really great. And then my boyfriend proposed, and this is a super blurry picture that my best friend took. And while that was really exciting, I was pretty pumped. Right after that, we started doing wedding planning and talking about the future, and a whole bunch of fear came up for me. Like, it really felt like this like blackness that I didn't know what being married was like. I had no idea what it would be. And I just was so excited about my career. I really wanted to focus on that at the time. And it just brought up a lot of stuff for me being engaged. So I knew someday, though, I was going to want a family and kids in the future. I had hopes. But the idea of being engaged and like having to figure out like, oh my gosh, what if I got pregnant? That idea like completely terrified me, which I'm not really proud to say. But I really felt like afraid of what if I got pregnant. So I decided, well, I better figure out what our family planning options are. And I went to go see my OB/GYN, and I felt a lot like this girl, because she goes, oh, just take the pill, like, don't worry about it. And it was a really quick conversation. I didn't really learn about any other options at all. And so she just handed me the prescription, and I left. And I thought there was no other way to avoid pregnancy. And I thought that taking the pill was the responsible thing to do. So, but I just felt this like I didn't want that to be the answer. And I didn't really have a reason why. It was like a gut thing that I just didn't like the idea of taking a pill every single day, I guess. And so I took home the prescription and I set it down on my desk in my room, and I ignored it. And, we're like continuing planning for the wedding, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I guess I'm really gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do. So eventually I came to this decision point in my head where I'm like, okay, I'm at this crossroads, like, the wedding's coming. I gotta like start getting my body ready for this, and I should really just start taking the pill. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna start first thing tomorrow. But then later that night, I went to our young adult group meeting, and I don't know how this came up. Like, that's a really weird topic to say, I'm gonna take the pill tomorrow, but I somehow mentioned it to a friend, and she goes, wait a minute, have you heard of NFP? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And she goes, okay, wait, before you take the pill, just meet me for lunch tomorrow, because I want to tell you something. Just see what I have to say first. And I'm like, okay, well, I waited this long. What's one more day? Fine, I'll just meet her for lunch. And really, that conversation changed everything for me. So it went something like this. She said, did you know there's a way to avoid pregnancy completely naturally? She said, you use your body's own signs of fertility to figure out when you're fertile and when you're not. And you should go check out an NFP class and learn some more. So here's me, like super skeptical engineer thinking, what is she talking about? I have never heard of this. I don't know anybody that's using NFP. My doctor didn't say a word about this. I'm not too sure here. So I want to share that with you because all that is to say, if you're super skeptical, I get it because I was that girl, super skeptical. And eventually we did talk about a class. I went home and discussed it with my fiance, and I'm like, okay, maybe we should just go figure out what it is, because she was really pumped about it and was like, you really should find out more. So the two of us discussed it and we figured, okay, well, we might as well just learn about it. It's not going to hurt to learn more. All right, so we went to the class and they handed us this gigantic textbook. It's this thick. And I think a lot of people were super overwhelmed by that. It was in someone's house and there was a bunch of chairs and set up for other engaged couples. And I just felt like super awkward the whole time. It was just super awkward. But anyway, this book ended up being such a blessing for me. I think that was really a Holy Spirit moment because I was the girl like in the back reading all the fine print and the footnotes and really like questioning the whole time, is this a real legit thing? And this book has a ton of research and information to go find out about the studies behind NFP. So it ended up being really good for me. The book that they use now, if you were to take a class now, it looks something more like this. So it's a little bit thinner. I think they realized people were a little overwhelmed. Anyway, I was so shocked to discover how much information is out there about NFP. So I mentioned that one book, but just starting the class like really led me into this whole new world. So I found there's a lot of books out there about this topic. And I was shocked because I'd never heard anything about it. Grew up cradle Catholic. Nobody ever told me about NFP until I was in marriage preparation. So there's a bunch of information out there. Also, I was so surprised to discover how much research is out there. So I actually did go and look at the references and pull up the medical journals. And it's like crazy how much information about NFP is out there that, again, like seems like it's never talked about for some reason. I don't know. And now you guys have the benefit of even more than when I looked into this 15 years ago. So there's all kinds of really good websites that are out there. And some of these didn't exist at the time. Some of them did. So I definitely recommend you check them out. But fast forward to now, and I decided to create my own website called NFP instead and teach it because I just feel like people need to know that NFP exists. It's been like a total like full circle journey for me and my now husband to really learn about NFP and understand how it could help us in our life. At the time when I learned this teaching, oh man, I struggled with this because I totally felt that way. Like, what? Like our church doesn't support women? Like, come on, I want to have a career, especially as a female engineer. Like, I didn't understand why, like, what was the real like reason? And someone gave me this talk called Contraception, Why Not by Dr. Janet Smith. And it was exactly what I needed to understand that our church is not like against us in any way. But I really struggled with that. So you guys, if you hear nothing else that I say, like, please go and check out her talk. Way back when it was only on CD, but now she has it on YouTube. So you can go and watch it there on YouTube. So a couple of highlights from her talk and why it really helped me to understand what our church teaches around this. She said, the church is not saying that we have to have as many children as our body can possibly bear, because that's what I thought was like, okay, we're not supposed to do anything about it. She's saying the church wants us to practice responsible parenting. And what that looks like for you and your family is going to be something you have to discern prayerfully together, right? And the church isn't telling you like how many kids you're supposed to have at all. But also just realize that she talks about this idea of this motivation pendulum and that it can change throughout your life. And I remember being super career focused in my 20s, and I was like, I had wanted nothing to do with babies or kids at that time. And the idea that it would change for me seemed like no way, but it did. She was right. And the thing that was cool about her talk is that people who learn NFP often come away with a much greater respect for the church. She says the church doesn't teach this to win a popularity contest. And isn't that the truth? Because this is super countercultural for sure. She came to Seattle right before the pandemic, and she gave a presentation at a church in Mercer Island. And I got to go, and I was sitting in the back like the whole time, like a super fangirl. So I brought my CD that I listened. Oh, and I forgot to tell you guys, when I first heard this talk, I remember the moment because my fiance and I used to carpool to work together, and we were sitting in the carpool lane on the freeway in LA with all these cars like around us, and we just put in the CD and we listened to it over a couple of days on our ride to work. And I remember just my heart was totally changed by listening to what she had to say, the way that she presents it and the reasoning behind the church teaching. And I totally remember that moment of sitting in the carpool lane listening to it. But anyway, it was super cool to meet her. And so I brought my CD and she autographed it. She said, "It works, God bless." So that was kind of a special, like, full circle moment for me to get to like tell her in person how much her talk really influenced me in my marriage. And then a couple other really cool resources I just want to mention quickly. If you're into podcasts, these are a couple really good ones to check out regarding the church's teaching around fertility and sexuality and understanding the role of sex in marriage. Christopher West is kind of the guru of that in our church right now. He's got a great podcast. And then Jason Everett, of course, his is awesome. It's called Lust is Boring. Jason Everett also has a talk available on formed.org. So if you have access to that through your parish, check it out. It's called Green Sex, the Case for NFP. So he talks a lot about the history of NFP and has some other really interesting little tidbits about it too, from like a spiritual perspective. So highly recommend all of that. I was listening to a summit, I think it was during the pandemic, and this woman named Becky Green came on, and she's a Catholic podcaster. And I remember I was making dinner and I was listening to her, and I had to like stop and rewind her talk because she was talking about NFP, and I was like amazed at how she phrased it. So I rewound it and I like wrote word for word what she said, and I want to read it to you because I love this. This is cool. She goes, "I was really afraid of my fertility. And the reason I was afraid of my fertility is because as women, unfortunately, we are taught to either reject our femininity or exploit it, but we're never taught to embrace it, except in the Catholic Church." She said, "It was through NFP that I actually realized the most empowering, the most liberating way of viewing women is through the lens of the church and the recognition that the design and intention of our body is beautiful and profound and powerful, but we shut it down. We teach women to shut it down. In all other areas of medical technology, medicine is meant to repair that which isn't working. You don't get devices, pills, etc., in order to impair what is working properly, except in the case of reproductive medicine, specifically hormonal contraception." I thought, okay, that girl, she summarized it beautifully. I listened to a summit earlier this year, and it was called The Truth About Women's Hormones. And they had a whole bunch of doctors interviewing other doctors, talking about different hormonal things. And it was really interesting when Dr. Cassandra Wilder came on. The question that they gave to her was, if you could stand on a mountaintop and scream one thing into the ears of every woman, what would it be? And so my ears kind of perked up. I'm like, oh, what's she going to say? And her answer was, she thought about it for a second. She goes, "Permission to be cyclical." Because we have this idea that we're supposed to be the same every single day, and we always have to be at 100%, and our mood always has to be perfect, and everything has to be constant. But she's like, that is not our biology. We are meant to have these ups and downs, and that's life. We have ups and downs. And she said that our body is talking to us, and these symptoms that we're going through is just a messenger. And so it's important for us to not ignore that and just think about what is the message our body is trying to tell us. And I thought, oh, that was really cool. Permission to be cyclical. So I want to end here with a quote from Dr. Janet Smith that like totally blew my mind the first time I heard it in her talk. She says, "Fertility is not a disease." I love that. So I have to show you some pictures of my family, my husband and my 3 kids. And also I got to teach my brother, this is my brother and his wife, and they had their first baby during the pandemic. She was born in May 2020. So she's much bigger than now than in these pictures, but isn't she so cute? And her little baby feet, I had to show you, but it was kind of interesting, like as a fertility coach, having the conversation about NFP with my brother. But I just wanted to share that because it's so awesome that now you have this awesome knowledge that you can go out and share it too with your family and your friends and anybody that is like questioning how their body actually works. It's like really powerful to have this background information, right? So what can you do next? I have a couple of resources that I want to give to you. Also, I recommend that you check out an NFP class and find somebody that can teach you, because the sooner you start learning this, the better it's going to be for you to gain practice and gain confidence in it. Let's see what else. I have a bunch of, on my website, I have a little spot that says free right here. So if you go to nfpinstead.com, check out this free button, and then it'll take you to a page where you just enter your email. And I put together a guide. It's pretty short, a PDF guide that walks you through how to get started taking your temperatures. And a lot of people say, what kind of thermometer and what time of day and all that. So it covers everything. It holds your hand and walks you through there. So please check that out if you're interested. Another thing you can do, check out the Seattle Archdiocese website was recently redone and it looks very cool now. So check that out. There's really good information about NFP teachers and classes and just more about NFP in general there on the Marriage and Family Life website. And USCCB has really good info. I would love to teach you myself if you're interested in working with one-on-one with a coach, but I can also direct you to other resources where you can find online courses that you can do at your own pace, and or you can do group courses. So there's lots of options, okay? So, but if you're sitting there like, I don't even know if this is a good fit, and you just want to talk to a person, like I would love to talk to you. I absolutely would. So here's what you can do. Check out my website, has nfpinstead.com. There's a button called Work With Me, and it takes you to this page, and there's a green button that says I'm ready, let's schedule. So if you want to just chat, like in general, to figure out, is this going to work for me? When's the right time in my own life to try to learn this method? I would love to just guide you. I love talking about it. So regardless if we work together or not, like I would just like to chat and hear your thoughts and what's in your mind about it. So please like use me as a resource. And what talk would be complete without wrapping up with some memes? So I gathered a few of them. They had a meme contest a few years ago, and these were the best ones, I think. So I like this boxing match between NFP doesn't work and science, because when I discovered all the research, that's kind of how I felt about it. And this one, I know you can't really see it too well. It's like these guys sitting around in a conference room, and one of them goes, okay, millions of women suffer from painful and unpredictable periods. What can we do? And one idea, mask the symptoms. Another person goes, just stop their bodies from cycling entirely. And then one guy's like, well, we could teach them to read the signs their bodies are giving and then target the root problems. And everyone gets mad and just throws that idea out the window. And I think in a lot of ways, NFP kind of gets thrown out the window. So I would love for that to change. And maybe slowly it will. Another one that's pretty common is this idea that everyone that uses NFP automatically is going to have gigantic families. And I just want to say, like, I get why people probably have that perception, but I feel a lot more like the seal pup because I've been using NFP for a while. I'm feeling really confident in the method, and you know, like it's totally worked out for us. But I remember being so terrified of this idea of like, it's going to just automatically mean I'm pregnant forever and I'll never have a career. And if there was someone that could have held my hand when I was 24, sitting where you're sitting, and thinking about getting married and still really wanting to be active in my career at that time, if someone could have held my hand and just said, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. NFP is absolutely a great decision and it's all going to work out. That would have gone a long way, because I was sitting there looking and feeling like I'm the only one. And I didn't know, like, where's the normal people that do this? You know, I just felt like really isolated with it. So if you're at all in that circumstance, like, please, I would love to chat with you more about what struggles you're going through around it. All right, so here's how you can find me. My email address is kristy@nfpinstead.com. My website is nfpinstead.com. And please, please, please reach out. Like, it's my favorite thing, talking about NFP and spaceflight, okay? Those are two of my favorite topics. And as we wrap up, oh, I had to show you, this has nothing to do with fertility, but over the summer, we celebrated a big milestone birthday and also our 15-year wedding anniversary. And so my husband and I went up on 0G and it was so much fun. So I just had to show you. We brought little Lego people, like astronauts of us with us that got to float around. And yeah, it was a really great time. So, oh, last, I have a list here of references for you. And I know this is a very long list. I had somebody come up to me and tell me like, oh my gosh, I feel like I need to do all this research now. And I just want to say like, that is not my intention for you to take away from this. Like, I need to go read a million websites now. I needed that information when I was sitting where you're sitting because I was so afraid and skeptical. And so I needed to go and do that for me to feel comfortable with it. But I'm not saying you should. I'm saying I needed that. So please don't take that away and feel like, oh, now I have to do a million like homework things. If you're curious about NFP and you just want to chat more, like I get it that you're super busy, reach out and I would be happy to help you with that. Okay. I absolutely wish you guys the best. And I hope that everything is going to work out great. And I'll be praying for you all. Okay.